Welcome to the Professor Network. Today we have with us Dr. Colin MacLeod, who is a professor of cognitive psychology at the University of Waterloo. Dr. MacLeod is also a Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada, a Fellow of the Canadian Psychological Association, and so many more. It would take far too long to go through all of his designations. I cannot imagine how busy you are, so thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk to me.
It's a pleasure.
Now, you run the Memory, Attention, and Cognition Lab at the University of Waterloo. Could you tell me a little bit more about what the lab does and what any current projects are that you might be working on?
Sure. It's the MACL, which you'll note are the first four letters of my last name. One of the students came up with that some years ago. So there's a bunch of projects going on because there are 5 graduate students working with me, and there's also a number of undergraduate students doing 499 courses, thesis courses. And there's my own research. So there's lots going on. We study primarily learning, attention, and memory. Those are the things that most of us in the group, or all of us in the group, are somewhat interested in. We have projects going on something called the production effect in memory, that you remember better things that you produce out loud. And we have a lot of experiments we're looking at. We have EEG experiments going on to see where that's happening in the brain. We have behavioral experiments to show different factors that affect production and how good it is. So that's one line of research, and a few of the students are involved in that. We have another line of research on contingency learning, which I think is really kind of the most basic form of learning that we do. It's learning connections between things. Okay. So in our simplest experiment, and I'll just try and describe this quickly, you got 3 buttons, red, yellow, and green. And you got 3 words. They're not color words, they're just ordinary words. And you're supposed to press them, and they appear in color. You're supposed to press the button corresponding to the color.
Right.
These things just one after another. What happens is, very quickly, people get faster on, so some of the words appear most often in one of the colors. Table might be, when it appears, it's almost always in red. Quickly, people get faster at pushing red when table comes up, although table is actually irrelevant. They're just supposed to press the red button. And if you ask them at the end of the experiment, did they notice anything? They don't have a clue. So they've learned something very fundamental, very simple, without knowing they've learned it. And We're very interested in how that process works. We've got experiments on learning computer programming stuff. We've got experiments on classroom learning and the effects of people around you, how much their attention affects you. So if somebody's being inattentive near you, does that affect your learning? So there's a wide range of things going on in the lab. And I'm sure that's true of all the labs in the department.
That's incredible. So what sparked your interest in this? How did you come to start doing this?
Yeah, I'm old enough that it's kind of hard to remember. Given that I study memory, though, I should remember, don't you think? I think really for me it was when I was a kid, I was interested in popular music, and I would recognize a song like on the first note or two, and I learned who did it, and I know what, all that kind of stuff. And so I thought, how is it that one can just learn this vast amount of information about some arcane subject? It really isn't, there's no survival value in it.
Right.
And so I got interested in why I could remember. Actually, initially, I was more interested in perception as an undergraduate. But by the time I got to graduate school, it was more about memory.
That's incredible. I know that some of the students who are coming into school this year have a lot of anxiety about the fact that all of this is going to be online and everything's going to be different. It's not going to be the typical undergraduate experience. And a lot of students have the fear that professors might be bothered by multiple emails and they might become even more scared to engage with them. What would your advice be to students with that fear?
I think the first thing to say is I think professors are worried about this too. It's new grounds for us, just like it's new grounds for you. Right. And we're all in it together. I mean, as professors, we want to talk to students. you guys really, in a sense, keep us young. So, I think in my career, when I started out, we didn't have the internet or anything. People came to office hours to talk to me. Now, when I have office hours, nobody ever shows up. They send me emails instead. So it's you don't get to know your students in the same way. I think in a way, with Teams and Zoom and all those kinds of things, you're going to actually interact with people a little bit more than maybe you have in the past. I think professors will welcome student contact. I mean, we're all isolated. So it's nice to have an occasional contact with somebody out there, somebody you don't know. So I think it's going to be fine. For students, I think the challenge is really to stay on top of the course material, because you're not going to have lectures driving you in the same way that you're used to. You're not going to have that pacing being provided. It's going to become a lot more intrinsic. And I think that's hard for some students. You're used to being more passive in the role. Now you've got to be more active. But I think that's a good thing too. If you achieve that, that's going to be great.
Right. Well, thank you for saying that. I'm sure that helped soothe the anxieties of many incoming students.
And professors.
For the older students at the university who are thinking of applying to grad school soon, what's an important quality or characteristic or trait that you believe is vital to possess in order to embark on this long road of academia?
If the target is really to become an academic, is that what we're talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a long road. I mean, you're going to do a minimum of 4 years in graduate school, probably 5. You may well do a postdoc of 1, 2, or 3 years. If you're in clinical, you'll obviously do your internship instead. So it is a fairly long road, but I can tell you, when you get to the end of that phase of your life, it seems like it was like that. You're young, it goes by quickly, and it's a great time. I think for most of us, maybe all of us who went to graduate school, I graduated from graduate school 45 years ago. Okay, some of my very best friends in the world are my fellow graduate students still. And I think that's true for most of us. It's such an absorbing time that it really is a wonderful experience. You're doing what you want to do. You're not taking courses because you have to. You're taking them because that's your interest. So now I think to get a quality to make you successful in graduate school, you should learn how to write. That's certainly high on my list. If you can't write or don't want to write or duck it, if you're taking courses that don't have writing components, graduate school, you're going to be doing a lot of writing. And you have to learn to be better at it and to like it. You're writing papers, you're writing for grant proposals, you're writing for scholarships, whatever it is, you're writing. So I think that's an important skill. I think curiosity, obviously, it's not a skill, but thinking about, well, how would memory work in this situation? Oh, wait a minute. What if we did this? What would people? And so that kind of, finding ideas for research when you start out, everyone feels like it's never going to happen to me. But then gradually you have your first idea that your supervisor says, that's interesting. Why don't we do that? And you think, okay, that's it, I'm done. I'll never have another idea. But then they keep coming. And your problem becomes not having ideas, but choosing the ones that you think are most interesting to pursue. So I think that kind of creativity, curiosity is really important.
Well, as far as the writing part is concerned, how would you recommend that students improve their writing in their undergraduate studies?
Well, don't be afraid to take courses that involve writing, would be my first step. Okay. I hear all the time, students come to me and say, will there be a paper in your course? And what they're basically saying is, if there is, I'm out of here. Right. I think that's a big mistake. In university, it's great to learn content, to learn about stuff, but it's really important to learn skills. You're learning in psychology, you're going to learn to write better, you're going to learn to do statistics, you're going to learn to think about experimental design, to ask questions and be able to answer them when you finish the study. all of those things, I think you need to grab at those opportunities, not duck them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to us. This was incredible, and we're
Pleasure.
so grateful that you took the time to do this.
Thank you for asking.